Good morning, everyone. I'm Randy Kay. We start with the action in Chicago as the leaders of the NATO nations prepare to meet today. For several days now, protesters have crowded the streets of downtown. But what is expected to be the biggest demonstration of them all is scheduled to start a little later this morning in the Grant Park area. It is billed as a major anti-war protest. The war in Afghanistan, of course, is going to be front and center on the agenda for President Obama and the other NATO leaders. Police say there were only a handful of arrests during protests yesterday, even though things got pretty tense at times.
Look. Hey, come on. Shoot. Roll. Okay, so listen, things are changing a lot here. This had been a very peaceful march for a long time. And then this police van tried to come through, knock a person down right here, and they're calling out for a medic.
That was our Jim Spellman reporting from the middle of the chaos you saw there. Earlier, protesters stood in front of other police vans trying to stop them. Those vans were mostly filled with riot police who had stayed on the sidelines during much of the demonstrations. Despite that incident, the protests have pretty much been peaceful, but according to police, that wasn't the intention for a few of the protesters. 3 men were snatched up and charged with planning a series of terror attacks meant to coincide with the NATO summit. CNN's Paul Buchanan has more on the alleged terror plot.
Randy, the young men sitting in jail on $1.5 million bond each are all in their 20s. They are Brian Church, 22, Jared Chase, 27, and Brent Betterly, 24. According to authorities, they all came from Florida to Chicago to cause mass mayhem. The terrorist suspect stood handcuffed and expressionless, identified by police as self-proclaimed anarchists. Prosecutors charged they had planned to commit extreme acts of violence and destruction during the NATO summit. Authorities say the 3 men were members of the Black Bloc group, which was blamed for violence and Occupy movement protests like the one in Rome last year, marked by clashes with police and the torching of police cars. They are being charged with conspiring to attack President Obama's campaign headquarters, Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel's home, and police targets.
Specifically, plans were made to destroy police cars and attack 4 Chicago Police Department stations with destructive devices in an effort to undermine the police response to the conspirators' other planned actions in the NATO summit.
Police say they seized 4 of those destructive devices, Molotov cocktails ready for use, along with a mortar gun, hunter's bows, swords, knives, and throwing stars. Their attorneys described the defendants as peaceful activists trained by undercover agents who infiltrated their group and even brought them the materials for making firebombs.
What we've learned now, we believe it is a setup, an entrapment to the highest degree, and it is sensationalism by the police and the state to discredit the protesters that have come here to nonviolently protest.
Supporters of the defendants could be heard scoffing at the allegations in court, but prosecutors allege that the men in custody are domestic terrorists. They say one of them asked while making a firebomb, "Have you seen a cop on fire?" Before the hearing, the defense sort of being tossed out there was that these young men were involved with beer-making material, not firebomb-making equipment. Then the charges were read, and suddenly the defense attorneys were talking more about entrapment. Back to you, Randy.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to What on Earth is Happening. I'm your host, Mark Passio. My website, whatonearthishappening.com. We're talking about who is more morally culpable, the order giver or the order follower.